Let's do this.
It's Social Pulse Weekly, brought to you by Agora Pulse. With this week's special guest, Mitch Jackson. Discussing this week's hottest topics and latest developments in social media marketing. With your host, Jennifer Watson. Here's Social Pulse Weekly.
Hi, everyone, and happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. And who doesn't love Mitch Jackson, right? I think we all do, but I think we all love him a little bit more now because that was probably one of the best, coolest, chill intros I think anybody could ask for. So we're so excited. Obviously, it's no secret that he's our guest, to have him on the show. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. So you guys, how are you doing? We're approaching mid-May. I can't believe it. Hopefully, you guys are doing great. Please let us know if you're watching us, who you are, where you're watching us from, and something exciting that's happened to you over the past week or so, or maybe something you're looking forward to later on this month. But we hope everyone is doing great. It's Friday, so cheers. And, if it's later, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so cheers. I've got water in this mug, but a little bit later on, we'll be having a fun work party. So you guys, thank you so much. I'm so excited for our guest and this interview because we're going to go hardcore in depth into basically what you need to do to make sure your business is prepared to reopen back up. Now, before we get to that, I want to thank our show sponsor, the amazing, the incredible Rebecca Ward. She founded Think Social, Be Social in 2018, and she's actually based in the UK right now. So I believe it's 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and she probably had to rush to get her kids to bed to join us. So Rebecca, thank you so much. She offers one-to-one consultations, social media management, and monthly coaching sessions with in-person Zoom. So you guys, if you need any help with anything, Rebecca is your person. And thank you so much for being our show sponsor. And with that said, let's talk about Mitch Jackson a little bit and how cool and awesome he truly is. So Mitch Jackson is a trial lawyer. He enjoys combining law, social media, and technology to disrupt, hack, and improve his clients' companies, causes, and professional relationships. Because of the results he consistently gets for his clients, Mitch has been named a 2009 Orange County Trial Lawyer of the Year and a 2013 California Litigation Lawyer of the Year. So I think we should probably all move to California in case we have some kind of legal issue. And stay connected with Mitch at his social and video blog, livevideo.lawyer. So Mitch, welcome to the show. I really feel like I wish cheers.
Come on down, Jennifer. Come on down. The weather's great, and we'd love to have you. It's good to see you.
Oh my God, it's so good to see you too. So you guys, Mitch is just an all-around amazing, awesome person. It is still morning where he is. It's 11 a.m. And we're so excited that he's with us. Usually he listens to us or watches us while he's jogging and getting his workout in, but he's been doing that at home.
So you're not saying this just because of the hat?
Yeah, no.
Or the t-shirt.
Oh my God. You
right?
Guys, yeah.
Or the mug, right? You're not just saying that because I'm an Agora Pulse fan.
Yes. Yeah. We know, actually, full transparency, guys, we paid Mitch to do all of that.
You did not. You did not.
No, I know. We're totally just kidding. But you guys, thank you so much for joining us. We've got Cheyenne in the house, Matthew. He's like mid-May. We're approaching it. We've got Brad Freeman, Danny Manzan.
Awesome.
Deb Mitchell. Okay, guys, let's do this. Let's get right into it. So first of all, just give a quick background, Mitch, like 60 seconds or a little bit longer, of how you got into being a trial lawyer, combining that with social media, and then kind of where you are today.
Well, I became a trial lawyer. I'm the first generation college graduate in my family, first immediate lawyer in my family. And because I wanted to make a difference, I wanted to help people. I wanted to take on the bullies and the wrongdoers in the world. Started my firm back in 1986 out of the back of my car while playing basketball in Laguna Beach. Fast forward to today, we've been embracing digital and social for the last, 1996, we put up our first website, and it's been full speed ahead ever since. And it's because I'm embracing digital because I want to meet people like you. I want to use companies and meet the founders of companies and the people behind companies like Agora Pulse. This is, as all of us know, this is what it's all about right now with COVID-19. It's about taking advantage of the cloud, taking advantage of live video, taking advantage of platforms that help us connect and build better relationships. So that's why I'm all in, and that's why I'm here today. Hopefully we'll help businesses open their doors back up in a safe and let's say safe and sane way, so that everyone's safe and everyone moves forward. And by the way, your host, the sponsor of your show, Rebecca Ward, she supports Care for Careers. And what a great organization to support as far as those working on the front lines in the hospitals, in healthcare, to keep us all safe. And that's where our thoughts are. That's where our efforts have been for the last 2 months, is to make sure that everyone's safe and sound and that we can help in any way. I know today is a business show, but I do want to thank her for what she's doing. And thanks for bringing that to my attention, Rebecca.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And Rebecca, thank you so much for being here. And she just said, Mitch's passion definitely shows through. She loves your TikToks. Mitch,
My
you
TikTok.
guys, yes, you guys need to follow Mitch everywhere and on the social media. Not right now, after the show. You have
After
to
the
watch
show.
the first. But yes, because he's absolutely amazing. And we've got Juan Santiago in the house too. Juan, you're awesome. Hopefully you're doing great. Now, Mitch, let's get right down to it.
Sure.
Obviously, the virus hasn't gone away, but businesses are starting to gradually reopen around the world. As we're starting to get into this new norm, and we're waiting for a vaccine for everyone. What do businesses really need to look at, whether you're a brick and mortar or online, when it comes to coverage for coronavirus claims, any additional coverage you think you should have, and how this will help save time and money? Because, I don't work I'm not a lawyer, so I don't even know some of the claims that come in or may come in, or people might try to kind of do in a bad way. But what should businesses, when it comes to any kind of legal coverage, have to protect themselves? And if it's different from online to brick and mortar, it'd be great for you to decipher that too.
Absolutely, Jennifer. I've got 4 specific tips, approaches, and ideas that I think every business owner will want to pay attention to. Now, each state is different. Each jurisdiction is different. Each country is different. So I want viewers of the show to check with a local lawyer in their state, in their jurisdiction, for any legal advice. I'm not giving legal advice, but I am having a conversation with you and just sharing some general ideas. Here's the challenge: is right now we have businesses reopening up their doors. And if you don't reopen up your doors the right way, you might be unnecessarily exposing yourself to a COVID-19 infection claim. It may be a good faith claim. Maybe you have an employee that's infected that didn't tell you. You're the employer. He or she comes in, you have a sandwich shop, you have a coffee shop, and they hugged a customer, as they always do, and somehow infected that customer. 3-4 weeks later, a month or 2 later, a claim's brought for medical bills, for related expenses, and God forbid, a wrongful death case, right? So there's business liability exposure there. What I'm going to be sharing are 4 solutions to help business owners open their doors tomorrow or next week, whenever it's safe to do so in your community. And that's a whole other conversation for another time, so that you can protect yourself, your employees, and your customers and clients. And in the end, we can get this economy running and generating and producing like we want it to. So the first thing I would do is, as a small business owner, check your business liability insurance policy. If you don't have business liability insurance, get it. And if you have business liability insurance, talk to your agent about including a COVID-19, a coronavirus liability provision in your policy, so that if a claim is brought against you, whether it's a frivolous lawsuit or one that happens to be based on the facts, on merit, and I actually see this happening, your insurance company will offer a defense. Their insurance defense attorneys will step in. Your claim will be covered under the terms and conditions of your insurance policy. You'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've got professionals defending your interest. The reason I'm bringing this up is I read the day before yesterday in Texas, there's a restaurant that's opening up where the owner of the restaurant allegedly instructed his team, his staff, his waiters, his bartenders, his busboys, don't wear a mask. That doesn't go with the theme of our restaurant. Now, to me, that's crazy. If you do something like that, and if you infect somebody, you're going to be held legally responsible. And I don't want to see that happen. So the first thing I encourage everyone to do is get business liability insurance, check to make sure you're covered under a COVID-19 infection claim. And that's the first step in protecting yourself as a small business.
Okay, I love that. And I think, Mitch, it's one of those things. This is such an interesting time where I don't think hardly any business has ever had to deal with this sort of thing.
Exactly.
And I guess I don't know. I would not think to, sue or, that's just not in my mindset. But unfortunately, there are some people out there and they may have legitimate cases, you
Right.
just don't know, and you have to be smart about it all. So I think that is really great advice, Mitch, because, like when we were talking with Mitch, beforehand through email, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of some of the things that you need to, consider. So you brought up something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When it comes to state and federal health and safety requirements. Now, you kind of talked about this before, but if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Jennifer. And so, by the way, when it comes to infecting someone with the virus, this is not new case law. The law is different in each state, but I had a trial a few years ago where the case in front of me came down with a $6.2 million verdict against somebody who recklessly and knowingly gave his partner a sexually transmitted disease. Okay. And because of that, she sustained injuries and damages, and the jury held him responsible. And I think they should have, especially when you listen to the facts. In today's world, the idea is you have a duty to keep your customers safe. If you breach that duty, you may be held responsible for any damages. I hope this doesn't happen. But I'll tell you what, when I look at the behavior of people across the country, the lack of social distancing, the lack of using masks and gloves and things like this, especially if you're a business owner, I think you're setting yourself up for a claim. Now, the second thing you want to do is you want to follow your local and state and sometimes federal health and safety guidelines. What does your state require you to do based upon the type of business that you have? If you're a sandwich shop, if you're a restaurant, if you're a barber shop, is there a 6 to 10 foot rule? Is there a washing your hands rule? Do you need to wear a mask and gloves? What does your state require you to do? I would suggest using Google, going to your state agencies, and absolutely follow those minimum guidelines. You're going to be doing that for two reasons. Number one, it's going to keep you, your employees safe and sound. And number two, it's going to help protect your clients or your customers from a COVID-19 infection or virus situation. The other important aspect of following health and safety rules and regulations and staying on top of those is that they change. The more we learn about COVID-19, the more we know how we need to act, how we need to interact with other people, and to keep everyone safe. So by staying up to speed with your state websites, with federal websites, what their recommendations are, I think it allows you to offer the safest work environment for you, your employees, and your customers based upon the information available within the last 24 hours. I think that's super important. The third thing I really want everyone to do, oh, by the way, if anyone's looking for what should I be doing in my business? In other words, should I be taping on the floor a 6 to 10 foot triangle around each table, each barber chair, each salon chair? How can I make sure we're following all of the regulations? I saw a gentleman on 60 Minutes. His name's Brett White. He's with Cushman's Wakefield. And if you guys Google Brett White, what he's done is he's helped over 10,000 different businesses, I believe in China or Japan, set themselves up, larger companies, to make sure they're following safety protocols, taping on the floor, painting lines, making sure people leaving their barber chair, and when they walk to the bathroom, they're not crossing someone else's space in another chair 10 feet over. There's all types of things we can do. And I think Brett White, in what he's doing and laying out, will offer everyone some good bullet points on how to be careful. The third thing, though, we've talked about liability insurance, health and safety rules and regulations. The third thing is set up signs. use signs in front of your business, inside your lobby, on the counter behind you, letting your customers and clients know about the risk of COVID-19. I think it really helps remind everyone to keep a safe space, a safe distance when they're in your place of business. I think it shows that you care. Along with those signage, if you're using online platforms to sell coupons or discounts or 2-for-1 sandwiches, you're using Agora Pulse to share out content, promotional material about your business. In your post, include links, include disclaimers, include hold harmless agreements, so that when someone books an appointment with your company, they've already clicked on the link, they've already agreed to hold you harmless, to waive any liability claims against you based upon that purchase of the coupon. Once again, each state is different, each industry and occupation is different. Not all professions and businesses are able to do this. So you need to check with someone, a lawyer in your state, to see if this is an option for you. But for example, if I walk in to get my hair cut, and Lisa did a pretty good job, so I don't really need one right now. Normally we sign in. Well, if you're going to have a customer sign in, why not have them sign in online first? In that sign-in process, they've clicked that disclaimer, they've acknowledged the risk and the steps you're taking to keep them safe. And they're also saying, look, if something happens, we're not going to hold you liable. Physically, if they come in and sign a sign-in sheet and you don't have an online, if you don't have a website or the ability to do reservations online, you might want to think about number 4, which is including waivers, disclaimers, and hold harmless agreements, actual documents that they sign. Once again, acknowledging the risk of coming in and having their hair cut or sitting down for lunch, or if something does happen, waiving any and all rights in exchange for being able to experience your restaurant atmosphere, environment, and eating out. I mean, whatever the issue is. Hold harmless agreements, disclaimers, and waivers are powerful documents. We've been using them in the legal industry in all types of different businesses, occupations, and professions. And I think they apply in these types of cases too. Once again, whether they apply to your business, whether or not you want to take that extra step, sometimes it's all in the presentation. It's not using these agreements, but it's how you use them. If you throw them in front of someone's face and say, listen, unless you sign this document, we're not going to serve you lunch. I'm not going to cut your hair. I'm not going to serve you a glass of cab. I mean, that's probably not going to come across the way you want it to. But if you create an environment where people come in, your hostess is talking to somebody, you're making a reservation, you have these forms set up on a clipboard, you're walking through business liability conversations, hey, it's good to be back. I think there is a way to have customers review and sign these documents to protect everyone involved. And I think those are 4 good ways that businesses opening up their doors once again, 4 things they need to look at just to make sure that they're protecting themselves and they're protecting their futures. Because here's the deal. Everyone's hurting right now. And, obviously I just heard this morning, 20 to 30 million, unemployed. Whatever happens over the next couple of months with companies and businesses opening up, it's not going to be easy, even when they open their doors. And so what I want to see happen is if you are able to open your doors, if you are able to provide your services, if customers or clients come in, what I want to do is set things up so that you're creating a safe environment, not only for your customer, but also for you, so that you're not at the receiving end of a claim or a lawsuit 45 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days later. Because if you are, that even if you haven't done anything wrong, it's expensive and it takes a lot of time to defend yourself in court. And that in and of itself could be a deal breaker to your company having a successful 2020 and 2021. So hopefully these 4 tips will keep everyone safe and sound and plant some seeds and get people going in the right direction.
No, I love that. And I think, Mitch, it's a lot of things that we just don't know much about, or many of us, just because we're not a lawyer, we don't work in that field. And so we don't experience it or don't even think of, oh, what if this could happen?
Mm.
And I have a question, Mitch. Do online businesses have to worry about anything? Let's say if you're not a restaurant or something like that, but when it comes to shipping packages or anything else, is there something that they need to be, concerned with or do? Because obviously they didn't have to shut down; they're still going on. But should they be remembering certain things or have certain things in place?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was impressed with FedEx yesterday. And the reason I was impressed is they dropped something off, and the gentleman, when I opened the door, was about 8 to 10 feet away and asked me, would you like me to go ahead and sign for you? So there was no physical interaction. So I think if you're an online business and you're able to, and you're delivering product physically, talk to your delivery team members about what's the best way to do that, right? So that you're following all of the guidelines that we've talked about. I think if you're delivering product digitally, it's kind of a different world. And I don't think you're exposed to the same type of liability exposure that you are in a physical business or one that requires delivery services. I will say in the speaking industry, Jennifer, one of the clauses that we're advising our clients to start including in their speaking agreements are health and safety clauses. And a health and safety clause is a clause that allows you as a speaker to unilaterally, based upon your own discretion, walk away from an event or decide not to participate in a speaking engagement because of health and safety reasons. And those have not generally been in speaking agreements in the past, but I think for peace of mind, for your own personal protection, these are clauses that I would suggest everyone start including in their agreements. If you were asked to speak on a cruise ship seminar, let's just say a month or two after this whole thing settles down, hopefully this whole thing will settle down eventually, would you do it? Would you want to do it? Would you want to put yourself in that situation? And obviously it would probably depend on the cruise line. It would probably depend on the history behind claims against that cruise line. And you want to have an out in your contract where if you decide it's not in your best interest, then you don't legally have to do it. And in that provision, is there a waiver of your speaking fee? Is that speaking fee non-refundable? Is 50% due upon receipt? The other 50% is refundable? Or do you roll it over to the next year's event? I mean, these are things that you want to plan out ahead in your speaking agreements so that you're dealing at arm's length. Nobody's caught by surprise. And frankly, when it's all said and done, your best interest is protected as opposed to the company that's hiring you to bring you in and speak.
So, and along with that, Mitch, so thinking ahead to this fall, right? There's a couple, we were talking beforehand, there's like a weather conference I want to go to and several other social media ones, but I don't know what the landscape is going to look like. And I don't know if I'm going to feel comfortable. So what, as an attendee, do I need to do if I purchase a ticket, but then say, what, even up to a week beforehand, I just don't feel safe and comfortable. And then flipping that around, let's say if you're planning an event, and a lot of conferences are just like, some are in the summer and fall, they're like, we really want it to be in person, but, it may not end up being that way. What do they need to, maybe they've already probably reserved the venue for it. What can they do to talk to the venue to be like, hey, what if it looks like, a month in advance, it's just not going to make sense financially for us to put this on. Because
it's crazy.
I'm a planner, Mitch.
It's great.
So
I know. So
when
am
I can't plan, like Brian knows this. When I can't plan, I'm just like, ooh. He's like, Jen, it's okay. I'm like, ooh, but is it?
So here's the thing, Jennifer. Here's the thing. I'm with you. I'm a planner to a point, right? I'm also the guy. As a trial lawyer, I love stepping between the ropes and throwing punches for 10 rounds, and we'll see what happens. I mean, that's my personality. And so having said that, here's the thing. One of the reasons I'm having, a friend of both of ours, Brian Fanzo, on my show next Wednesday night, is Brian's doing some amazing things when it comes to virtual events, when it comes to showing people how to present digitally, using platforms like this and some really cool other tools, right? So I think my audience of lawyers are going to be blown away when they meet Brian on Wednesday night. But the reason I'm bringing it up is things have changed forever. I don't care what anybody says. I've got my finger on the pulse of businesses, on my clients, politics. I've got a global brand. I have a pretty good feeling for what's going on and what's going to be going on. And you're not going to see conferences and seminars like we did in the past. Things have changed forever. And I think people putting on events and conferences are going to be including in their contracts with the venues a health and safety provision that will allow them to back out if something like this happens again. I think people attending these events will be looking for health and safety provisions in their ticket purchases that will allow them in good faith, whether it's a virus, whether it's a terrorist attack, whether it's something else, right? To once again bow out of the event and be refunded their money. So what I see happening are new contractual provisions being put into the contracts and the written agreements that you're talking about. I also see smart business owners, smart companies grabbing people like you and Brian and bringing them into virtual events and sharing basically an unlimited virtual event around the world. Maybe it's recorded, maybe it's behind some type of wall for later viewing by employees of a company or paid attendees. But the point is, what we're realizing as business owners is a lot of the traveling that we've been doing, for me, back and forth to the courthouse, it's not necessary. There's ways to do business and be more efficient, save our clients money, still get value, embracing digital and embracing live video. So I think companies and people that understand that and are starting to build business models around this new dynamic, I think it's a good long-term play. I think it adds value, and I think it keeps all of us safe and sound.
And I love that. And so really quick, because in about 8 minutes, we're bringing on the amazing Scott Ayers, our content scientist.
Oh, I remember my son meeting him in San Diego, and Scott had the hair thing going on.
Yes.
And Garrett's like, who is that guy?
Yes. I mean, Scott is amazing. He's he's so awesome. My daughter is like, is that a troll? She thinks he's a troll just because it's troll hair, which is so cute. She's so precious. She saw a photo of him. She's like, oh my God. So really quick, Mitch, I'm going to ask you probably like 3 more questions. But first, so let's say I bought a ticket to an actual physical conference, a couple months ago before all of this, and the event is going virtual, and I don't think, it's going to be the same experience.
Sure.
And they're refusing to give me my money back, or what are your rights if that happens?
So your rights would be set forth. And by the way, all the comments, all the questions that we're looking at, I want everyone to know you guys can reach out to me afterwards over at my blog, over at streaming.lawyer or livevideo.lawyer. I'll answer all your questions. It comes down, Jennifer, to what's in the ticket contract. When you purchase the contract, or the ticket, if you did that online, the terms and service agreement will dictate whether or not you're entitled to a refund. So each event, each venue, each website probably has a different TOS, terms of service agreement. And that's why from this point forward, I think consumers will be looking for that health and safety provision in the TOS agreements that they click, and agree to when purchasing a ticket. And so will the event organizers, both to protect each other. Now, having said that, there's a pretty good chance for those of you that have purchased tickets to events and can't make it now, or the event's been canceled, or the event's going virtual or online and you're not interested in participating, I would suggest there's probably a pretty good chance that you're entitled to get your money back, because they're not providing you what they promised. And so in exchange, they should have to refund your purchase price. But once again, it's a contractual issue. What was expressed, what was implied between the parties, and each state law and federal rules and regulations, it's different. And it just depends on where you're located, what you agreed to, and what the meeting of the minds between the parties are. So it just depends, Jennifer. I hate giving that answer, but unless I'm your lawyer, and then if I'm your lawyer, we're going to get you your money back. Okay. I can guarantee that. That's just the way I roll.
Mitch,
and if we don't, we're going to go down swinging. All right.
Oh my God, I love Mitch. Okay, so and Rebecca put this in the comments. So thank you so much for that advice. So Andrew and Pete just had a Tomicon, and they put it online, but it was like the main day. There was one main day still, but they had a month long of events. They did a pop-up Facebook group.
Yeah.
It's kind of an example of how to have a very engaging virtual conference that people still feel like they got their money's worth out of, you know?
So let me say, I'm a big fan of that. I mean, that's great. I'm not dissing online conferences, right?
Yes.
So I was just responding to your question. No, I think this is the future.
And the thing is, even despite that, Mitch, there was some people I think that weren't happy, and that's what makes it difficult, you know, and what your rights are. But
yeah. So Jennifer, so what you do is just like forget about social and conferences and everything else. I tell my clients, think long term. How can you preserve the human relationship between you and your client or customer, right? Make long-term decisions. If it means refunding money, refund them the money. Keep them happy. Keep that relationship going. I think that's what it's all about. You don't hear many lawyers telling you that, but I'm not only a lawyer, I'm someone that's had my own business for 34 years, and that's what's worked for me, and it'll work for you too.
Awesome. Thank you, Mitch.
You're
so
welcome.
now I have a quick question, even not regarding COVID-19.
Sure.
But when it comes to social media in general, user-generated content, what do brands, entrepreneurs just need to be careful of when it comes to either sharing content, making sure they give the right, you know, this photo was done by so-and-so? What are some tips for that?
I think what I've seen, and I've spoken at a lot of social media conferences, and I've been around a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've helped hundreds of companies start and or represent them in litigation. Okay, there's two biggest challenges I see, and I get it. It's complicated. Number one, not respecting, understanding, or appreciating the intellectual property rights of someone else. You know, using somebody else's image, video, written content, audio, without permission of the creator, the license holder, whoever has the legal right to give you permission. That's the biggest mistake I see people make, is intellectual property right violations. Number two, not getting agreements in writing. Okay, whether you're forming a partnership, whether you're interacting with a client or customer, not using written agreements, creating deals with a couple of text messages, a couple of Twitter DMs, a couple of private messages on Instagram. You start a company, and then a year later, everything kind of falls apart, and you're wondering, why didn't we have a meeting of the minds? And so, number one, intellectual property. Number two, written contracts. Take care of those two things. You'll be ahead of 99% of everyone else doing business on social media.
Oh, that's so smart. Mitch, thank you. And then one last thing, since we have just a couple more minutes left. So a lot of people are finding themselves at home and maybe even have more time, or they're like, you know what, let's pivot our business and start you know, a different brand. So like if someone is starting, because I know a couple of different people that are like, you know what, I've got extra time on your hands. I'm like, well, send me that time. First of all, but they're starting their own brands as an entrepreneur. Like, what should you be concerned with once you come up with, I guess, your brand, like trademarks, all that kind of stuff? What are like your 5 basic things that if you're going to start from scratch somewhere, you do?
Absolutely. I could tell you of the hundreds of companies that I've helped start up, without exception, the successful ones were companies that had good legal counsel and a good accountant or CPA in their back pocket, because there's a lot of important decisions you need to make. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, as soon as you can, and I understand finances and expenses, but as soon as you can, depending on your company, depending on what state you're in or what country you're in, form a legal entity, whether it's a corporation or a limited liability company, and do business as that legal entity, because that separates your business liabilities from your personal assets. And that's critically important. It also allows you to increase your tax benefits and maximize retirement plans, and set up a wall between your personal life and your business life. I think those are the primary things I would look at. The other thing is, this is a great time to start a new company. This is a great time to start a new brand. When you look back at Uber and Lyft and some other companies back in 2008, 2009, you know, that's when they started. And so what we did is we pivoted, Jennifer. What lawyers do is we have settlement conferences. We'll go down to the courthouse and to third-party companies, and we'll try to settle our cases in front of private judges and private mediators before trial. And we pay these companies to do this. When COVID-19 hit, I set up, and you know, I love live video, so this is pretty easy for me. I set up a new department in the law firm, and it allows us to mediate settlement agreements for lawyers. The lawyers come in on Zoom. I'm the mediator, and we get the cases settled. Nobody has to travel. Nobody has to be sitting in the same room with their client. So we've used this as an opportunity to open up a new department in our law firm. And I would like your viewers to think about that too. This is a terrible time. There's a lot of tragedy going on, but with this tragedy, easy. Look, you guys, if I can do this, anyone can. With the tragedy comes opportunity. Okay. And so look out there. What's a need that you can fill right now using what you know about social media, digital, live video, Agora Pulse, platforms like this, and how can you start rolling this out over the next couple of weeks? That's what I would do. I think you need to be proactive right now, not reactive.
Yeah. And I love all that, Mitch. And I think, I know some people and have some friends that have been furloughed or they've just been laid off. Nothing to do, obviously, with their intellect.
Right.
It's just a matter of lack of business, and it's crazy because even I have a friend, she's a nurse, but she doesn't work like the front lines in the ER. She's more of an elective surgery kind of nurse. And they're having to furlough nurses because, they're not allowing certain elective surgeries and stuff. So it's crazy how widely impactful it is. But at the same time, there is opportunity. If you can just shake off, okay, this sucks, but there is, sunshine at the end of the tunnel.
There is. And I see sunshine waiting on the sidelines. I know Scott wants to come in, but let me just say something real quick. And I think this is critically important, you guys, is even if you can't think of a business or a business need right now, our communities, our local communities needs our help. Okay. There's opportunity to help other people. There's opportunities to build new relationships. Okay. Forget about business just for a second. There's opportunity to be there for other people, whether it's older people, younger people, community service organizations, your church. Now's the time to get involved. Now's the time to help. And by building relationships, it will set everything else up for you down the road. I'm going to sit on the sidelines if you don't mind. I'd love to listen and watch Scott because I always learn so much when he's here.
Oh my God, absolutely. And then really quick to that. So, gosh, I can't believe I forget her name. Brian, if you're still watching, remind me the name in the comments, but there's a speaker. She used to be a cheerleader for the NFL, but she pivoted obviously because she was, that was one of her main things. And so now she is working with a hand sanitizing company. And, it was an amazing, beautiful pivot, and that will stick with her once, things get back to a new norm. She has that, as a side helping supplement, what she isn't making right now. So I think there are opportunities, that, even if you need some financial assistance. Shannon McCain. Yes. Shannon McCain. She's a rock star. She's doing that. So there still are opportunities out there, they just may be a little bit different, but I thought that was fascinating. I saw her Facebook post the other day and I was like, oh my God, good for her.
It is fascinating. And I gave a speech 20 years ago in Rotary to 150 high school kids about opportunity and being proactive, right? And in my presentation, I shared a couple of stories like that. I just posted it at streaming.lawyer because that story 20 years ago to those high school kids applies today to everyone being affected by COVID-19. I encourage everyone to read the post. It will give you some ideas, some encouragement, some motivation, and hopefully get you going down the right path.
Yeah, I love that. Mitch, thank you. And with that
you.
said, let's bring on the amazing Scott Ayers, Agora Pulse's content scientist, always coming on the show to share knowledge. Yeah,
I wasn't picking my teeth. I got no warning that I was popping on. So I wasn't like,
yay.
Or you would have done something with your hair, right?
Yeah, it was fun. I haven't got my hair cut yet underneath, and like my wig fits very strangely right now. So it's a challenge. Yeah, it's good to see you, Mitch. I could have sat here and listened to you talk for another hour.
Yeah.
Right back at you, buddy.
Yeah, I love some of those ideas and pivoting. And I'm telling my kids, this is free advice. I'm telling I have two teenage girls. Second one's about to be a teenager. I'm like, look at what's essential right now. Who is working? Who is not working? You need to go after those jobs where people are working. And so I'm trying to get all the kids. I work in our student ministry at church. I'm like, look at what people are working. Well, look what's going on. Find a way to fit yourself into there. And I think you'll not be in such chaos later on, like if this ever were to happen again. So yeah, I think the advice was was amazing. Yeah.
That's good advice. And it's not if it happens again.
When?
It will.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the guy that lived through 1987, a Black Monday, the end of 99 when this market crashed, 2008 with the financial crash. It's just a matter of being prepared and doing what we're all talking about.
I'm a guy who I turned 45 tomorrow. Woohoo! And I've probably had 30. I've had like 30 jobs since I was 18 because I've pivoted. And like in the economy collapse in 08, I was selling cars. You couldn't sell a car in 08. You had to move, so I had to pivot to something else. So you've always just got to be able to pivot and. Yeah, it sucks, like Jennifer said, but you move on and you figure out a way to get through it. And,
For anyone who's watching and you guys are just struggling, and it could just be mentally, this is kind of a very tough time. We're all here to support you. If you need anything, you can privately message me or, have a question and we can all direct you to someone that could help you professionally because we're all here. We've all been there. We all get it. So we're all in this together. So, we can definitely work through this and help you guys. So,
happy birthday. Happy birthday to these guys.
A lot of May birthdays in our company we discovered today.
And Mike Alton, who is producing the show, his birthday is on Monday. We're literally, I know, all three of us are in a week of each other.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy. So happy birthday, Mike. So with that said, Scott, you did an amazing study on Reddit ads. Are they more cost effective than Twitter ads? And so a lot of people probably throw their money more toward Twitter, or just the more mainstream social media channels. But this is a great study. And Scott, I would love you to set this up for us and just walk us through, what you were thinking the outcome was going to be, how you tested it, and then the awesome results that you got.
Yeah, I mean, Reddit is one of those places that I think most people ignore, especially in marketing. I don't think anybody hardly ever talks about Reddit because it's that place where it's all the conspiracy theorists and silly memes and just odd conversation that goes on. I go there when I want to see what really has happened in the world. Go to Reddit before you look at the news. But here's an interesting stat. When they surveyed, there was a survey done by a company called Civic Science. And they found that 41% of Reddit users do all of their shopping online compared to only 24% of people who weren't Reddit users. And they also found that, there's a little stat there. You can see it there. It popped up in there. Reddit users. So what that tells me is Reddit users are online. They're online a lot. They trust ads. They see ads more often. They're more apt to even click on ads that we found in another study we did before comparing Reddit ads to Facebook ads. So it's just kind of an interesting place to kind of go look at because it could be that low-hanging fruit that you may be ignoring, and you maybe need to pivot some of your dollars. Talking about pivoting, pivot some of your dollars over to Reddit. And so what we did is we looked at two identical ads on, I want to tell my hypothesis first. Mike is scrolling through there. Stop right there real quick, Mike, on that one. That's the revenue that Reddit was expected to get this year. Not anything compared to Twitter or Facebook. They were projecting about $181 million in revenue for 2020. Obviously, that could change now because of the COVID crisis. I'm sure ad spend for them is down just like it is everywhere else. But they're not something to shy away from. There's people that they're getting very advanced. I saw an article today where they're addressing political ads on Reddit. And the ramifications of those, just like Facebook is, just like Twitter is. So there's a lot of money that's being spent on Reddit. So that's why I love testing it. The last time we tested, we got a really, really low CPC on Reddit. And so I kind of wanted to look at it from Twitter's side as well. And so my hypothesis here is just based on what I got with the Facebook test is that Reddit ads will result in a lower CPC than the Twitter ads, because on Twitter ads tend to be a little bit higher. Typically, they have been for us when we've ran similar tests against Facebook. So I kind of think Reddit's probably going to be lower, and we can kind of address why that is and what that looks like as we kind of get down to it. So what we did is we ran two different ads with the same blog post on Twitter and on Reddit. And you can see there, the Reddit ads are weird looking for me as a Facebook guy and a Twitter guy, because there's not a lot of context. You don't get to put a lot of context on a Reddit ad. And this is what a Reddit post looks like. If you typically do a Reddit post, it looks very similar to something like this. So it's just the title, it tells you the website, and you got your image, and that's it. You don't get to do anything else. But that's what Reddit users expect. So that's just kind of what they look like there. So those are two ads on Reddit. And then the two ads on Twitter, they're to the same blog post on the lab, same title, but we obviously get to add more to it, more context. We can add a tweet kind of description to it. You can see the title, you can see all the metadata, but it looks like what a normal tweet looks like on Twitter. And then we targeted people. We always target with Social Media Lab. We're always targeting people who only speak English, so English-speaking users only, typically in Australia, Canada, the UK, and the United States. That way we're kind of hopefully only targeting people that are going to be willing to come subscribe to our blog or listen to our podcast. The targeting on Reddit is a little weird. You can't do as much granular targeting as you can on Twitter. But we did target for this one. We targeted the interest of business, podcast, computing, and I tried virtual reality just to kind of see if there's any crossover. They see the orange-haired guy. Maybe they'd be kind of excited to click on that and see what it was about. We're on Twitter. I can target based on hashtags like Instagram marketing, social media marketing, social media examiner. Our friends over there, we know their readers like social media marketing, so we want to target them. And then we targeted people who follow the Agorapulse Twitter account, as well as a lookalike audience is kind of what we targeted. So overall, we ended up spending about $1,000 on the test, about $500 on one test and $500 on the other test for the different blog posts. And here's what we found. We have raw numbers on there. The raw numbers sometimes I put it on there on the blog post just because it's kind of interesting to look at. Like the Reddit ad got 44 cents per, it's 44 CPC, 44 cent CPC, where Twitter was $1.20. So Twitter was much, much higher, so 3 times as high. But you can notice it took a lot more impressions to get clicks on Reddit than it did on Twitter. And so if you look at percentages, this is where it really makes a difference for me, because your CPC could be much higher or much lower depending on what your product is and depending on what you're sending traffic to. So never look at studies that give the average CPC and go, I'm getting 75 cents, they're getting 60. I'm doing something wrong. No, it's just you're a different market. You're targeting different. But the impressions were 391% higher on Reddit. Clicks are 124% higher, and CPC was 63.33% lower on the Reddit ad. So Reddit ads way outperformed compared to the Twitter ads as it results to CPC. Now, a lot of guys will come in and say, CTR was ridiculously, low on Reddit, which it was. The CTR was like 0.26%, where Twitter was 0.56%, which means we didn't have to get in front of as many people on Twitter to get the clicks. And that's probably what you want if you're sending traffic to something that's converting immediately to purchase. You probably would do it that way, look for that higher CTR. But for this, we're trying to drive traffic. We're all about the awareness of the lab when we run these tests. And so for me, and for the tests that we've done so far on Reddit, we've got another one coming out soon, probably in June, on Instagram, comparing Instagram to Reddit, because I'm addicted to Reddit ads right now. And we always want to compare CPC for us because we're just driving traffic. We just want to get people at the top of the funnel and to get them to kind of know us and trust us. I'm not selling them anything. So I've kept running ads on Reddit, or I was running ads after this test, and I've dropped that CPC even lower, like 28 to 30 cents CPC on Reddit. So I would suggest if you're especially if a blog, put a little money over on Reddit ads. Try it out. See what kind of traffic you can generate, and see if you can get them into your funnel.
And that's great advice. And that's such a fascinating study, Scott. And Rebecca said, I love hearing Scott's tests. It's so valuable.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Deb, look at you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was at Social Media Day San Diego almost a year ago. Yeah.
It is. And
Mitch and his son caught me outside.
Oh, here we are. Yes. Oh my God, you got the whole gang right there. Oh.
Yeah, that was a good event.
Yeah, that was an amazing event. Good memories. I love that. And even Brian says, love me some Reddit, but everything not marketing. It's my place to escape.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I think the interesting thing about I've found now that I've kept running ads after this test is you can target like video marketing. You can target that interest. You can target podcast. There's a lot of different podcast marketing, even I think is one of the subreddits. So you can target these subreddits where there's people like you and I who are hanging out, like Brian. I want to add, if I'm somebody who's, selling virtual events or speaking gigs or right now software, or camera gear, I want to target a guy like Brian on Reddit because he's not expecting it perhaps. And because he's used to the ads on Facebook and everywhere else and probably ignores them. And Reddit he may pop out and go, hey, what is this? So yeah, there's ways to target really hyper inside Reddit once you really start digging into it.
See, I love that. And really quick, so Shannon McCain has joined us. You heard an echo of us mentioning her. So Shannon, I just talked about how cool your pivot was. We've been talking about pivoting. We have Mitch Jackson here who is giving some legal advice. And we've got Scott Ayers, our content scientist here at Agora Pulse. But we were just talking how awesome your pivot was as you're working with the hand sanitizing company. And if you want to put a link in here to that, you can, because I forget the exact name, Shannon, but just how cool it was for you to pivot in that way and just take a step back. You're like, okay, so what I do, as a normal career is kind of taking a back seat. How can I help people and make a difference, in this world, in this environment we have going on right now? And you're doing that by helping out the hand sanitizing company. And I think it's just awesome and amazing. So we were giving you some major props, Shannon. So thank you so much for popping in and joining us. We think you're pretty cool. We think you're pretty awesome. And with that said, Scott, I think it's kind of like you said, talking about the Reddit ads, like Reddit is so granular. And like Brian always says, if you love like underwater sewing with socks on, you can find, a subreddit for that.
Or like, Richard on our podcast talked about, the place where people talk about, toilet seat warmers, and tinfoil hat wearing alien guys, there's a place there. There might be a market for you. If you're a brand, you might get really low cost per click. So it's worth trying out. Even if you spend like $10 on it, just go try it out.
Yeah. And you may find your super fans, your niche, your core group of people. So I love that. Scott, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And now guess what time it is, guys? It's news time. I'm excited. I don't know about you. I actually stepped back. I actually stand, guys, when I present, just because actually Brian was the one that was encouraging me to do that, because you have more energy and just, I get really excited. So I like talking with my hands. So, all right, guys, let's talk about some news. The first one is the Google Lens features. They have some new features to help you be more productive at home. And I think these are so cool because I write a lot of to-do lists and just have things all over the place. And so if you're like me and you like wake up in the middle of the night and you have a notepad next to your bed and you're like, I have an idea, or you have like a notepad somewhere else, or you just write it on a random piece of paper because that's just where you are and you're not by your phone. They have this new way for you to copy text from paper directly to your laptop, to your computer. So now when you select text with your lens, you can tap copy to computer to quickly paste it onto another signed in device with Chrome, which I think is so cool and so useful. So hopefully some of you will be like, wow, that's so amazing. And also you can learn new words and how to pronounce them. Basically, the search for new languages has doubled over the past couple of months with a lot going on. So you can use your lens to translate words in Spanish, Chinese, and more than 100 other languages by just pointing your camera to that text, which I think is so helpful. And even for our company, because we're a French-based company and, half of our company speaks French, while the other half doesn't, they have to speak English as well. So, but, can help with some translations sometimes, right? And they also have quick lookup concepts as well. So if you're looking at, if you come across a word or phrase you don't understand in a book or newspaper, like gravitational waves, which I love, that's a meteorological term. You can actually, I love that there's that example, but you can actually Google that up and see that there are disturbances in the curvature of space-time, that sort of a thing. So I thought this was really cool. So this is just a fun productivity tip. And I didn't just pick this one, guys, because it had weather in it. I didn't. I just thought
it's the space-time part of it.
Yeah. I thought it was super cool. And also this week, Facebook announced their first members of their oversight board, which features 20 people from different backgrounds, including a former prime minister of Denmark and a Nobel Prize peace winner. And so we've got a cool article about that. Basically, they created just a way, a new group to exercise independent judgment over some of the most difficult and significant content decisions. So in doing so, they're trying to get input from critics and other supporters of Facebook. And it's through hosting a global consultation process of workshops and roundtables with more than 650 people in 88 different countries. So basically, it resulted in this creation of the oversight board, basically to safeguard the board's ability to make independent decisions and recommendations. So this started actually last year, and it's just a way for people were wanting this from Facebook, and it's a way for them to get an outside perspective and have a really good, rounded, intellectual group of people to discuss what's okay on the platform, what isn't, which they should reconsider, and that sort of a thing. So I think it's a really positive play and spin on everything. And last but not least, let's talk about stories. Like, you should be doing something else because you all have so much time on your hands. So LinkedIn Stories is now available in Brazil, which is very exciting. So they talked about this basically back in February. It looks kind of very similar to Facebook and Instagram, but for stories for LinkedIn, the maximum length of a video story is 20 seconds. They last 24 hours, just like you can do, or you do with Facebook and Instagram. You'll be able to save individual story frames. Users will be able to share their story directly with another LinkedIn member via message. So basically, it's going to be very, very similar to Instagram and Facebook. And you know, the interesting thing, and I'm interested about this with you, Mitch, you know, I find with my stories on Instagram, my feed posts don't perform as well as my stories. My stories get about 3 times the engagement and just viewership as well. And so I think a lot of people have found that. And so it's, you know, as a social media manager, or, you know, anyone who manages social media, you're just like, whew, another place to consider and think about doing things. Do we really need this? But at the same time, it may be beneficial, but some are thinking, so LinkedIn is more of a place of B2B. You know, yes, there's a news feed and it's beyond people searching for jobs, but some are questioning, is this the place for stories? Is LinkedIn really the true place? I think, you know, actually it probably is if you do it in an appropriate way. It just depends, you know. I mean, if you're out there dancing crazy and doing weird things, no, I don't think that's appropriate really anywhere.
So no renegade on there.
But it's the place for your story. Okay, if you want to blend in, post what everyone else is posting on LinkedIn or any of the other platforms. If you want to stand out, be unique, be memorable, and add value, do so in the way of stories and be yourself. Okay, and once you give yourself permission to do that, that's where the magic starts to happen. And it doesn't happen overnight. Okay, you stumble, you try to figure out what to do. But listen, what we've known as trial lawyers for, you know, hundreds, if not, you know, thousands of years before trial lawyers, but when somebody at that camp around the fire was the guy or gal helping everyone work out their differences, they were telling stories, right? And I think if you learn how to tell a good story and focus on that right now, if you have free time because of COVID-19, spend time right now learning how to tell better stories. And I think that will help you on social. It will help you at home in your relationships, and it's going to help you in business moving forward in time. There's nothing better than telling a good story.
That's very true. And everyone here, we're watching all these. Mike's been popping up all the comments. But Megan Power says, I don't have stories in LinkedIn yet. No, this is only Brazil right now, but it will be gradually released. They're kind of testing it out there. Brian says, oh yeah, perfection is a fairy tale, because Rebecca says it can spend about half an hour creating each one, as I love playing, but this could take too much time. Yeah, I tend to spend a little too much time too. My perfectionism just a little bit. But I love how you brought up storytelling, Mitch, because I feel like now more than ever, you know, when you tell how, like, what your passion is and why you love doing something, people understand where you're coming from. They can probably relate to a couple things in that story and be like, oh my God, I experienced the same thing. And that's just not personal. It's like brand wise too. And so I love how you brought that up, because storytelling is so powerful. And I think I've mentioned this before, our CTO on a different live, but our CTO, presented at a conference telling the story on how Agorapulse started. And there was a gentleman there who had been on the fence of whether he wanted to use Agorapulse or not. He just wasn't sure. But after hearing Ben, our CTO, speak, he was like, sold, done. You know, and it was just the power of that. Like, it's really incredible. It truly is.
And it's nothing that we're born knowing how to do. You're not born being a good storyteller, but you can learn how to be a good storyteller. And there are approaches and techniques, you guys, using anchors, starting in the middle of the story or maybe at the end of a story, like a good Netflix tease.
Yeah.
And then go back and talk about how you got there. understand we have limited time and attention right now. And by perfecting your storytelling abilities, you'll be able to capture attention and frankly, close more deals. And in my case, win more trials. That's been the secret over the years, is not instructing the jury, but bringing them into a story, a 2-week-long story where they see the characters and they smell the evidence and they feel that item. And then when it's all said and done, they get to help you write the last chapter. And I think we can all do that on social media using some of the things we talked about today.
Oh my gosh, Mitch, I love how you just described that. I want you as my lawyer. I don't need you right now. But if I ever do,
hire Lisa. She's 10 times better than I am. Hire Lisa and you'll be in good shape.
I don't need you right now, but if I do, if I find myself in a situation, Mitch, I'm coming directly to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. But you guys, we're watching a live video right now, okay? And the reason I've had Chris Lemma on some of my shows over the last 2 weeks, you guys, is Chris shows you how to tell good stories on live video. So if you're talking to a prospective client, if you're trying to close that deal, if you're talking to partners about starting a new company, right? Using storytelling techniques in live videos is so powerful. It's going to separate you from everyone else on that Zoom call. And so, Jennifer, I would encourage, if anyone's interested, and I have no financial reason to steer people over to Chris Lemma, L-E-M-A, chrislemma.com, but check out my last 2 interviews, you guys. It's gold. And I've been doing this my whole life. And Chris, when I share his techniques with my trial lawyer friends, they're blown away. They're like, that was the best storytelling communication approach I've ever been exposed to. And they've tried hundreds of cases. So yeah, let's tell more stories on live videos. And I think it'll put a lot more smiles on people's faces.
I love that. And and if you're nervous about, going live, stories is a great way to practice too. Seeing yourself on camera. So I love that. I love all of this. And we shared the link to Chris Lemma. Is it Lemma?
It's Lemma, actually. And he's awesome. He's brilliant.
Yes. We got that link right there. Thanks, Mike, our amazing producer.
Thank you.
So you guys, right now is maybe one of the, really exciting parts of the show. I should probably tease this a little bit more, Mitch, in my storytelling of this live. But we have trivia time where you can win either an Agorapulse mug, cheers, or a t-shirt that Mitch is wearing. Mitch, you're the perfect person for this right now. Because win the t-shirt or the mug. It's your choice, guys. And we're not offering the hat right now. But, if that becomes available, we will offer the hat. But you guys, let's go to trivia. Mitch and Scott, you can also play along, but LinkedIn released an article on how COVID-19 has influenced employer branding. And so I have a couple questions that I thought was really interesting based on their findings. So the first one is, and remember when you guys answer these, answer 1-A, B, or C, or D, and then the second one, 2-A, B, C, or D, just so we know that you're answering the first one, then the second one. So the first one is, according to LinkedIn's data and their insight, what regions or countries are seeing the most engagement in regard to COVID-19 social posts? Again, according to LinkedIn's data or insights, what regions are seeing the most engagement in regard to COVID-19 social posts? Now, this is basically for LinkedIn. So you got to think, okay, get in the zone of LinkedIn. Is it Europe, Middle East and Africa, Asia Pacific, Latin America, or North America? So, and I was actually, the second question answer surprised me the most. But yes, I would love to know what you guys are thinking on LinkedIn. Basically, what posts, where are they seeing the most engagement? Oh, look at these answers. Everyone's saying D. Scott says B. Asia Pacific. Good job. What are you thinking, Mitch?
Well, I'm thinking through the lens of someone that lives in Southern California. I'm thinking D, but if this was TikTok, I'd pick B.
Oh.
Kind of depends on the platform.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah, so that's great. So, and Brian said, as a frequent watcher, I don't answer till Jenny eventually gives away the answer. So I'm only going to give that little tip. The second question surprised me more, but this may surprise some of you too. I don't know. So it's very interesting. We give the answers, we wait 24 hours, and then I will reach out to the person that's won. So yeah, so you're just going to have to wait and see, Mitch. All right, so let's get to our second question, guys. According to LinkedIn's data, again, in what region, or country are working from home posts getting the most engagement? So we had the first one was basically the most engagement on COVID-19. But then for the next one, what region, countries are seeing the most engagement on working from home posts, which a lot of us have been producing content. And so it's kind of an intriguing. This one surprised me. Is it A, Europe, Middle East, Africa, B, Asia Pacific, C, Latin America, or D, North America? So this one shocked me. I'm leaving it at that. But didn't really shock, I guess I should say, but I was kind of surprised. So Scott says A. Mm-hmm.
I'm based on A, based on the way you read it.
Oh,
Listening to your voice and your inflections were higher and more positive when you read the first one. Just my guess.
Man, you're exactly like Brian. Brian reads me like a book. Like I can't.
Well, Brian was a professional poker player, and I play poker a lot, so there's a lot about tells. So yeah,
there you go. So I'm gonna go with Scott. Whatever Scott thinks.
I could be wrong. I mean, I could be absolutely wrong, but
yeah. Oh my God,
there was a difference, though.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to give it away, but Elijah is following along with A2. Rebecca said C. You guys are doing good. Megan, I want to know what you think, Megan, in the comments. Brian says, Scott, I do that in my personal life. This is true. This is true. I know both of you guys reading like my mannerisms, all that kind of stuff. All right, guys. So think about that second question. We'll let you know who the winner is in about 24 hours. And with that said, I want to thank, first of all, Scott Ayers. Thank you for popping in and joining us, sharing your insight. And also the incredible, the amazing Mitch Jackson. You're kind of, well, I want to say a badass. Can I say that? You are. So first of all, Mitch, tell people where they can find you, follow you, and you're doing a new exciting, basically, Brian, I guess, is the next guest on next Wednesday.
Yes, and big thank you to Brian Fanzo for being my guest. So we've got a new Wednesday. I figured we have more time right now, right? Everyone does. So about a month and a half ago, I started a new show, Wednesday Night Legalmarketing.live. It's a Facebook Live show that we're pushing to all the platforms. And I have on marketing, branding, and business development guests that it's primarily for lawyers, but I think any business owner would benefit. Brian's going to share about virtual presentations, right? And all the cool tools that he's using to do that. I think my lawyer friends will be interested in that. If anybody wants to stay connected with me, just jump over to streaming.lawyer or at Mitch Jackson on most of the social platforms, and we can continue the digital dance. It'd be my pleasure.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Mitch. Thank you seriously so much for sharing.
Thanks for having me on.
Of insight, all of that. And Scott, where can people find all of your amazing things?
You can get to the lab over at agorapulselab.com. You can read all of our posts. I think we have a new blog coming out this Wednesday coming up, and so a new podcast as well. So yeah, agorapulselab.com. Or wherever you listen to podcasts, you got time, look up Social Media Lab and listen to podcasts.
And you guys keep in mind that if you have something you want Scott to test, he can do that. Definitely do that. Well, most likely, we'll have to talk to him. I shouldn't be saying that. I know I'm basically saying he can do it.
We can try. We have a group like right now. If I think it'll work on here. If you type lab in the comments, it'll send you over to the chat bot for the lab, and you can join our private Facebook group, and we talk about all kinds of experiments in there. So
yeah, Scott, I didn't mean to say that you can do it all.
Can't do everything.
If you have an idea, you can talk it through with Scott, and maybe we can find a way to test it. So yes, let's do that. Now, along with that, I want to thank the amazing Rebecca Ward, who is our show sponsor. Rebecca, you've been so great. You've been so wonderful. It's, I think, 8:00, 9:00 where you are in the UK. So thank you for joining us on your Friday evening and spending it with us. And Rebecca, please share where people can hire you. Think Social, Be Social, I believe.com is it. But follow her. She's amazing, incredible, and insightful. And also, guys, if you have not done so yet, Social Pulse Community is the new Agora Pulse Facebook group where we're kind of just sharing ideas, the latest news. Basically, if you have a question about something you're doing in social media, just let us know. If you're an agency, it's a great place to join. And we have a special Lunch and Learn series that is specific just to the group. And next Tuesday, we're actually having an Instagram expert, Jen Herman, which is going to be sharing her insight. There's been a lot of Instagram Instagram news lately, and she's been also producing a lot of cool content. And so we want to kind of basically show that off and kind of give you guys some great ideas during this time to just thrive and really break through everything going on. So Jen Herman is joining us for Lunch and Learn next Tuesday. That's at noon Eastern. And then next Friday, Social Pulse Weekly at 2 o'clock, we have the amazing and awesome Erin Gargan King. She is joining us. She's also West Coast, California. A lot of cool people out there. So we'll be discussing a lot of things with her, basically marketing, ways you can pivot during this time and kind of create a strategy and a plan that you can start implementing immediately, and a kind of a reopening strategy as well. So Erin is an amazing speaker, author, very powerful. So we're excited to have her. And with all that said, thank you guys so much for spending your Friday with us. Elijah, you're awesome. No, thank you for joining us. And thank seriously all of you for being a part of this. And if you have any questions, you need anything, I, as well as Agora Pulse, is here for you to support you in any way that we possibly can. So just let us know. And with that said, cheers and happy Friday.